Welcome back to the Global Ledger. I'm Justin. If there's one mistake that turns market stress into full-blown crisis, it's this: confusing a liquidity problem with a solvency problem. They look similar on the surface. Markets fail, funding tightens, confidence evaporates. But underneath, they are completely different failures. And treating one like the other doesn't just fail to fix the problem, it often makes it worse. So today, in episode 92, we're going to build a clear, usable diagnostic framework to answer a simple but critical question. Is this a liquidity crisis or a solvency crisis? Because once you know the answer, everything else becomes clear. Let's get into it. Liquidity and solvency are not academic concepts. They are operational realities. Liquidity problems are about timing. Solvency problems are about value. Liquidity crisis can destroy healthy institutions. Solvency crisis cannot be fixed with liquidity, no matter how much you inject. History is full of examples where the distinction was misunderstood, and each time the cost was enormous. So what is a liquidity problem? A liquidity problem occurs when an institution has assets that exceed liabilities in value, but cannot convert those assets into settlement money in time. In other words, the balance sheet is sound, but the funding breaks. Liquidity problems emerge when markets freeze, funding rolls fail, collateral haircuts jump, payment systems slow, counterparties step back. These are some examples. Nothing is, quote, wrong with the assets yet. But without liquidity, the institution can't meet obligations today. Liquidity crises are about speed and confidence, not fundamentals. So that leads us to ask what a solvency problem is. A solvency problem is far more, dare I say it, severe. It occurs when the true value of assets is less than liabilities, even if markets were calm, even if funding were available. Solvency problems are not timing issues, they are economic reality issues. No amount of short-term funding can fix them. Liquidity only delays recognition. At some point, the losses must be absorbed. That's why solvency crises require capital, restructuring, write-downs, or just plain failure. But why do markets constantly confuse the two? In real time, liquidity and solvency look almost identical. Prices fall, funding costs spike, institutions rush for cash. Markets don't immediately know, are assets liquid or are they impaired? This uncertainty is where panic lives. And this is why central banks and regulators face such a hard problem. They must act before the diagnosis is certain. Move too slowly and liquidity problems become solvency problems. Move too aggressively and you risk propping up insolvency. So how do we tell the difference? Here's the framework. Number one, asset sensitivity. We need to ask ourselves, do asset values depend primarily on market liquidity or on cash flows? Okay. Liquidity problem, values recover when markets normalizes. Okay. That would be an example. Solvency problems. Okay. Values remain impaired even after stabilization. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, funding structure. Ask, is the institution failing because funding rolled off or because losses accumulated? Okay, liquidity problem, in this case, sudden funding withdrawal. Okay, solvency problem would be long-term erosion of capital. Okay, number three, collateral quality. Ask, is collateral being discounted because of panic or because of credit risk? In this case, liquidity haircuts widen temporarily. That would be one example that would fall into liquidity. With solvency, collateral permanently repriced. That would be solvency. And lastly, number 4, time dimension. Okay, we need to ask what time or would time alone fix the problem if funding were restored? If the answer is yes, liquidity problem. If the answer is no, solvency problem. Okay, this framework doesn't remove uncertainty per se, but it kind of sharply narrows it. So why we need to bring policy into this picture and ask why policy often gets this wrong. Many policy mistakes come from misdiagnosis, treating solvency problems as liquidity problems. As an example, delays resolution, encourages risk-taking, socializes losses. Treating liquidity problems as solvency problems, forces unnecessary failures or amplifies panic and freezes markets. The hardest part isn't designing tools, it's deciding which tools apply. So how does this fit into the unified ledger we built in the last episode? From episode 91, we learned to see the system as a unified balance sheet. This episode adds a diagnostic lens. Liquidity problems are flow failures. Solvency problems are stock failures. Flows can be restored, stocks must be repaired. Once you see that distinction clearly, market behavior stops feeling mysterious. Now that we have a diagnostic framework, the next question becomes obvious. How do you apply this in real time, while markets are moving and information is incomplete? In the next episode, episode 93, we're going to do exactly that. This is reading crises in real time. We're going to walk through the signals to watch, the indicators that matter, and how to distinguish noise from structural stress while events are unfolding. Because diagnosis isn't useful if it only works after the fact. That's next. Thank you for listening to episode 92 of The Global Ledger. I'm Justin, and thank you for being here.